Yo, what's up, guys? As the request from a few people, we did do the fastest runs on Inferno, on the module drop table, on the thresholds, and which are these three. So now let's go into the shell drop from the Grim Pursuit, starting off, of course, with Nana and Nico. We do have a few fast clears that I can't really see, but we do see a bunch of people going for the dot team, which is definitely an interesting one. It is also a team that is like a one team solves a lot of dungeons. But the issue I've seen with the dot team a few times, which we do have over here as well, is that it is a manual played run. So you have the Shadow Sania going for the option where you go for an S2 into an S2, and then you go for an S3 because there are more dots to explode. And that definitely does make a lot of sense, but that is also definitely something that people are not going to be doing all the time. And you cannot put your AI to it to say it's like, okay, these are the orders that I would like to use your skills in. So because of that, I actually have to check double with Shadow Sania. Maybe let me know in the comments if she actually does do a rotation like this normally, that you only use an S3 if there isn't enough to explode. Could be a thing as well. I'm not sure how that works. I haven't really tested her myself. But is a team that one team solves a lot of problems. But what I would more say for most people to have like as a standard team would be something. We have like a 37-second over here. There's actually few teams that do decently fast. Let's just see what the team... I'm actually very curious about this team over here. A 3-man team doing 40 seconds. So this is with Rindian Bao. I think that a Rosa in general would do a lot more damage. Okay, it does do a good amount of damage. Also with the Hack Pursuit. Yep. Wait, is this thing going to do that much damage than with this follow-up skill? Doesn't do any... I kind of expected more for a 40-second run. Okay, that's where she started kicking in a bit more damage with the speed buffs and stuff. I guess kind of makes sense. I think you could have had a faster run than this if you actually put a Rosa next to it. I think the fastest run would technically be a Rindian Bao and a Rosa back-to-back, and then you would simply do a lot of damage. Also, there's no attack buff for this one whatsoever right now, so definitely do think you can make faster runs than this. Let's see what we have for maybe a little bit of faster run. We do have a faster run over here. Wait, let me actually see, because I think I can just simply do a faster run with the team that I run myself. Because I think this dungeon shouldn't be that hard. So wait, this is the team that I was running myself. Does that make sense? Well, it doesn't make too much sense for Victor getting low in HP, but let's just see how fast this would be itself. I think in this case... Oh, wait, you can't really go for the close, because close does have the wrong element. You could still do it, but therefore Dion is just simply better. Probably a Ditin is, or not Ditin, what's her name? I forgot her name. The Reviver, the Fire Reviver. That would do a little bit more work on this one, because then the Victor would have had more value in his passive and stuff. Or maybe even going in with the Lily would have a little bit more value. But something like along the lines of this kind of team, where you go for a Marvell, you go for pushbacks, and then from there you start dealing a lot of damage, and that's just the main way that you're going to be clearing this one. I think that this should probably still be looking at like 44 seconds team, so I think that something along this line is what people will be using for Nana and Nico. It's not the hardest of dungeons out there. So let's actually look at the next dungeon we have. We got Sharon, so... Let's see in Sharon, we have a 25-second team with actually a team that I can run myself as well. So let's see if that does have the clear time in here as well. Doesn't seem to be... Oh, we have this team over here with a 26-second team, which is pretty much similar to the team that I'm running. So let's actually run my team. And let's see if we can do enough damage to get towards that as well. Wait, he was he using a Marvell, or was he using something else? Let me double check that on the 26 or the 25-second team. This was using a Marvell, so no attack buff in this case. Okay, interesting. Let's just go for that. Maybe he was using the shelf that gives like a semi-attack buff kind of thingy, but we remove this, we put in a Marvell, we go for this, we put it on auto, we hit the main target, and let's just see how far they do for this one, and how fast it is, because I'm not really sure if this would be looking at a 25-second team, but yeah, that's a good amount of damage right there already. Second one going in. Yeah, that's why I also said in the last video yesterday, why you probably do want to be building both, because it's just really strong to have both. Okay, I did not make the my units cut there. If my units were to cut there, they would have probably done a little bit more damage. Okay, that's where they start doing dots and stuff. If they had a little bit more speed, I would have probably had like a 25-second team as well. This is 36 seconds. So Just have to do a little bit more speed to outspeed so the boss doesn't take another turn and then you can go for it. But a team something along that lines is probably something what people would use. Let's actually look at how the 26-second team did, because it's a good 10 seconds faster as the team that I just did. So we do have, that one, of course, it does have attack buff and diff, this one. That makes sense. Let's see if he actually does do enough damage to one-shot it from this position. Okay, does get a few hits, so the Victor passive would kicking a little bit harder. Does have enough, okay, the side things actually, okay, makes sense. Yep, a little bit more damage in there. And then I think that Victor from here does kill it with a Fang. Yep, okay, makes sense. I think that something along this line is probably what people will use. You don't really need a Marvell for it all too much, actually. Then let's look at the Shadowflame Hoyan. And I think this one, the fastest clears was just straight up dot team. I think everyone that did a fast clear, like this one, dot team, even a 3-man team, over here, dot team. This is probably the fastest team. No, wait, we actually have a team over here, Rosa, and then also using Obel. Obel is an option, but I don't think most people would have that built anytime soon. So I think that this is more of a feasible team that people would actually use with the Kraken and stuff. So I'm going to be checking out this team because I think it's more of a reliable team that people would actually use. So in this case, we do go for, okay, lots of damage on the Rosa. It is also really depending on if the Rosa does go for the team ups or not, which is always like a really big factor. Preferably, I kind of like the idea why you do go for a freeze. I'm not really sure if you really would need a Ling Low for this. It is definitely not bad to make runs to a certain extent safe. But yeah, this way you just see the power of Rosa, where Rosa just simply does so much damage. Still looking a little bit tricky for how much damage you're getting. I kind of like the idea of the Kraken, because then you have a little bit more safety of just surviving in the first place. All of the damage in the end is for the Rosa. So yeah, I'm kind of liking this team. I think that this team would definitely do pretty well, where you do have a chance of good survivability. You clear it pretty fast. And Rosa is, once again, pretty insane damage dealer, that's for sure. But the real fast teams on these are pretty much all the dot teams, like dot team, dot team, dot team, dot team, over here. Yeah, like legit everything that is below the 40-second line is pretty much just straight up the dot team. So if you want to go super fast, you got to probably be looking at the dot team. Otherwise, you still have a bunch of other options with just like Rosas and stuff. But that is how it's looking for Hoyan. Then let's look at this guy. I think this guy is cleared super fast. 14-second team. That is absolutely insane. I think that one was still viewable. Yeah, we have the 14-second team over here. So we have a Messiah going in for AoEs, and pretty much the whole team goes for one rotation and then you kill. I think you need an insane amount of damage for this on 14 seconds. But that is looking very insane. So we do have that one going in, Messiah going in with the AoE hit. Does not kill the side things. Therefore the thing also does aim for the wrong target, but the thing does so much damage that he instantly kills and the Victor doesn't even move. What? Wait, that's an insane amount of damage. Wait, is that the thing way more crazier build than mine, for example? No, actually not really. So that's an interesting one right there. I should actually maybe try this out myself. But yeah, this one is, I would say, one of the easier ones. Everyone's kind of clearing it super fast, even with just like a Victor team without anything else. Already does do enough damage. So this is also the one that we're going to be farming the most, I would assume, because this is where you get the Codex of Magic, which is arguably the best shell in the game. So that is definitely an interesting one, which a lot of people will be farming for. And yeah, you just smack this thing to oblivion from the looks of it. Yeah, this one is definitely not hard, but this is definitely one of those that we're going to be farming a lot, because you just get really good stuff from this guy. But yeah, as you can see, definitely not a super hard one to clear right there. So those are all of the ones for the shells. I think of usability, what a lot of people are going to be farming. Well, I think there's a little bit of a split between all of them. You're going to need a few of all of them. I do still have to properly test out this shell. Let me check if the guys that were using Rosa on this team were actually using that shell or not. So is using a White Fang. This one is actually using this. Okay, that was the clear over here. So this one was actually using the Revelation. I think it's one of the better ones for Rosa. Does he? Oh no, he actually uses the Count. I'm not really sure if I really like a Count. Well, Count does give you... Yeah, actually Count kind of makes sense because you keep the attack buff for a little bit longer as well. But then again, this one does also count every time, I guess. Does it? I'm not sure, because there is a cooldown on it. Interesting. I would have to properly test the revelation, because that's relatively a more new one as well. It was added between the last beta and the beta before that. But I can definitely see great usage from the count as well, because getting that extra attack buff, and then also when your team up hits, you still get that extra attack buff. It is interesting to see that no one is actually going that much for a Lily combo in any of those. Whereas in the start of the beta, where people were going towards Inferno runs, every Inferno run was killed with a Lily. And that is something that you have to keep in mind. Lily enables it where you need like just 1 damage set rather than 2 damage sets. Lily enables a lot of other things to just get more hits in general. And I think that Lily will definitely be a key factor for Inferno runs early on, before we have enough damage to make Inferno runs of a very fast kill. So those are definitely things that you have to keep in mind, that I think it would be a lot more feasible to be looking at like, okay, we want to have this kind of team out there, which is actually an interesting team. Let's actually see that team with Lily. I think there's going to be a lot more Lily teams early in for Inferno, and then afterward is where you see is like, okay, now people start going for like heavy hitting teams and all of that kind of good stuff. So who do you pair with? You pair with you, okay. So you will go for team ups as well. We have the Shadow Hoyan going in, going for another round of S3. Let's go with that. But then we can also, okay, you do actually get your full rotation off, because, oh, that's actually a nice combination. Lily has so many cool combos, because in this case, we did get an S3 pushback combination into an S2, and now we have another round of S3 and S2 going in, and we also still go in with the S1 in here. So yeah, once again, strong Lily combination. And this team actually looks a lot more sound than the previous team. Might have been, well, now you get like the proper damage in. But the other team had a Ling low, and it didn't really look that much better than you see on this team right now. And the interesting thing is she actually has healing on her skill 1, so you can build her a lot more squishy for the Leon and still do a good amount of damage. So definitely an interesting unit right there. And yeah, that's just where you get like the multiple boosts in, the multiple things in. Sure, you were, I think that this is still, ooh, looks a little bit tricky. Wound was in there, but I think that's, okay, it looks a little bit more tricky than I want to give it credit for, to be honest. But in the end, it does still work, and I think more people are going to be building this kind of team at first, because these are the units you have built. And yeah, you do need a Lily for that, but the Lily enables a lot more for us. Like, okay, lower gear quality can still make you clear those dungeons. Any of the other dungeons you cannot do higher than hard or nightmare, so you won't be really focusing on that in the super late game anyways. And those are the 4 nightmare stages that you will probably do. So guys, that was it for this video. Hope you did enjoy this one, and see you as always in the next one. Thanks for watching. If you would like to see more guides, join the Discord and check out the content tab for the guide video archive, which contains all of the guides that you might need. Hope to see you there.